The star station Aurelius 9 floated above a dying red planet, glowing weakly like an old lantern about to fade. Every corridor hummed with panic. Screens flashed warnings in dozens of alien languages. Core failure imminent. Engineers ran in all directions, shouting numbers, codes, and impossible equations. For the galaxy's best minds, this was supposed to be an easy fix. But the reactor at the heart of Aurelius 9 was no ordinary machine. It was alive in some strange way, built from ancient technology older than any species remembered. And now that living engine was dying. If it failed, the whole station would explode, taking 3 moons and millions of lives with it. Amid all the chaos, a quiet human janitor named Evan Cole pushed his cleaning cart through the lower decks. His uniform was stained with oil and old coffee. His face was tired, his eyes soft but sharp, like someone who'd seen too much and said too little. No one looked at him twice. To the alien officers, he was invisible, just another human worker doing the dirty jobs no one wanted. But when he stopped near a maintenance vent, he could hear the reactor groaning deep inside the ship like something in pain. He paused, listening carefully. The rhythm of the machine was wrong. Something inside him stirred. He whispered under his breath, "They're tuning it wrong." Nearby, a group of towering alien engineers stood arguing. Their glowing armor reflected blue and silver lights from the failing reactor feed. One shouted, "The plasma coils are destabilized. Increase flow by 30%. Another snapped back, "You'll melt the entire chamber, fool." They all ignored the human janitor standing a few steps away. Evan leaned on his mop and said softly, "Maybe stop feeding it energy and let it breathe." The aliens froze. Slowly, their leader, a tall creature with 4 eyes and a voice like grinding stone, turned toward him. "Did you just speak, human?" Evan nodded calmly. "Yeah, you're choking it. You keep forcing energy in, but it's not sinking with the lower vents." The alien engineers looked at each other, half amused, half offended. One of them let out a dry laugh. "And you are? A cleaner?" "Janitor," Evan said, meeting their glowing eyes without fear. "But I used to fix engines before they fired me for being too human." Laughter filled the room. Even the younger technicians snickered. To them, a janitor giving advice to Galactic Engineers was beyond ridiculous. "Please," said one alien, mocking him. "By all means, fix the core with your mop." Evan didn't reply. He simply looked past them at the massive holo display showing the reactor's pulse. He could see the data patterns like music notes out of rhythm. He didn't understand their complex math, but he understood sound, pressure, and flow. He understood life inside machines. The reactor gave another painful shudder, sending tremors through the deck. Lights flickered. Alarms screamed. The engineers shouted commands again, but Evan stepped closer, feeling the air grow hot and heavy. The smell of burning plasma filled the chamber. Through the transparent wall, the reactor glowed like a dying heart gasping for air. A small alien child, part of a visitor's tour, cried out and was pulled away by guards. In that moment, Evan saw his daughter's face in his mind, Lena back in their small metal apartment on the lower deck. She loved drawing stars on the walls with chalk. She always asked him, "Daddy, why do stars die?" He had no answer then, but now, looking at this reactor, he whispered, "Because no one listens when they ask for help." The lead engineer barked, "Everyone out. Containment shields are dropping." The floor shook violently. Pieces of the ceiling fell. Panic spread as soldiers and scientists ran. Evan held his ground, staring at the pulsing light of the dying core, and then, against all orders, he stepped forward. "Hey!" A guard shouted, "You can't be here." But Evan's eyes were fixed on the reactor's rhythm, like he was listening to a heartbeat only he could hear. He slowly removed his gloves and touched the control panel. It flickered under his touch, the system almost recognizing something different. The alarms went silent for 2 seconds. The hum changed pitch. The alien engineers froze. "What did he just do?" one whispered. Evan looked back at them, his face calm but firm. "You've been fixing it like a machine," he said softly. "But it's not a machine. It's alive. Let me try." The lead engineer opened his mouth to protest, but before he could speak, the reactor pulsed once, then stabilized slightly. The readings dropped from red to orange. Everyone stared at the human janitor. Evan looked back at the core, light reflecting in his eyes like a spark of fire and faith. "I can fix this," he whispered again. this time not to them, but to himself. And for the first time since the crisis began, there was a tiny flicker of hope inside Aurelius 9. The next morning on Aurelius 9, the alarms had quieted, but fear still hung in the air like dust. Engineers whispered about the strange human who had touched the reactor, and somehow calmed it for a moment. Some called it luck, others called it madness. No one could explain it. But down on the lower deck, Evan Cole wasn't thinking about fame or fear. He was thinking about breakfast. Inside his small apartment, the walls were made of old metal sheets patched with tape. The lights flickered every few seconds. A little girl sat cross-legged on the floor, her small hands covered in chalk. She was drawing stars again, white lines on dark steel. "Morning, Daddy," said Lena, looking up with a big smile. "Look, I made our home a galaxy." Evan smiled, tired but warm. "That's beautiful, kiddo. You're getting better every day." He set 2 bowls of cheap protein oats on the table. Steam rose from them, though the smell wasn't pleasant. Still, Lena clapped her hands like it was a feast. "Today special?" she asked. He chuckled softly. "Special because you're eating it with me." She giggled, but her laughter faded as she noticed the burn mark on his uniform sleeve. "You went near the big machine again, didn't you?" Evan froze for a moment. "Yeah. Had to clean up a mess," he lied gently. "But I'm fine." Lena tilted her head, her bright eyes full of curiosity. "You always fix things, Daddy. Why don't they let you fix the big ones too?" Evan didn't answer right away. He looked at her drawings instead, stars, planets, spaceships. She had drawn one that looked like a little home flying through the sky, with 2 stick figures inside. "Because," he said finally, "sometimes people only see what's on your uniform, not what's in your hands." Lena blinked. "That's dumb." Evan laughed quietly. "Yeah, it is." He packed her small school bag made from recycled reactor fabric and walked her to the transport lift. Other alien children stared at Lena as they entered the learning pods. Some whispered about her human father being just a cleaner. She didn't understand the insult yet, but she saw the looks before leaving her. Evan bent down and adjusted her hair clip, shaped like a little star. "You remember what I told you?" She nodded. "Fix small things first. Big ones will come later." "That's right," he said softly, and never stopped believing that humans can do great things. She hugged him tight before running off, her laughter echoing down the hall. Evan stood there for a long moment, watching her go. Then he sighed, shoulders heavy, and walked back toward the maintenance sector. The higher floors were filled with shining glass and glowing armor, where alien elites discussed data metrics and quantum engines. The lower deck smelled of metal and sweat. Humans worked there, janitors, loaders, and mechanics, doing what aliens didn't want to do. When Evan reached the cleaning bay, his friend Marek, another human worker, leaned against a broken droid. "You're the talk of the whole station, man," Marek said, smirking. "Heard you touch the core. They say it listened to you." Evan rolled his eyes. "It didn't listen, I just understood it." Marek raised a brow. "You understood a galactic core that even the engineers can't fix?" Evan didn't reply. He picked up his mop, dipped it into the bucket, and began cleaning. Marek sighed. "You used to build star engines on Earth, didn't you?" Evan stopped, his hand tightening around the mop handle. "Used to," he said quietly. "Until the war took everything. My wife, my job, my planet." For a moment, the sound of machinery faded. There was only silence between them. Marek placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're wasted here, brother. They don't see what humans can really do." Evan gave a tired smile. Maybe they will one day. Just then, the comms panel on the wall beeped with an urgent tone. A voice came through, panicked, sharp, alien. "Attention all sectors. The core has entered critical phase again. Evacuation protocol in motion." Evan's heart sank. "It's happening again," he whispered. Marek cursed under his breath. "Let's get out before the shields drop." But Evan didn't move. He looked down at his hands, rough and scarred. They had fixed old cars, broken drones, and the air conditioner in his apartment. But this time was different. The core was dying again, and he could feel it like a heartbeat inside the walls. He grabbed his small toolkit, the same one he used to fix leaky pipes, and turned toward the upper deck. "Evan!" Marek shouted. "Where are you going?" Evan looked back, eyes steady. "I can't just clean up after them anymore. Don't do something stupid." Evan smiled faintly. "It's not stupid if it saves lives." He stepped into the elevator, heading up toward the reactor zone. As the lift doors closed, his reflection showed a tired man, but behind those eyes was quiet fire. In his pocket, a small drawing from Lena peeked out, a little human fixing a big star. He looked at it once, whispered, "For you, kiddo," and the lift carried him toward danger again. The upper reactor deck of Aurelius 9 looked like a storm of light and panic. Thick cables hung from the ceiling like metal vines, and every wall pulsed with warning signs in 100 alien languages. The sound of the failing core was deeper now, a slow, angry heartbeat that made the floor tremble. The Galactic Engineers stood in a circle around the main console, shouting commands in frustration. They were the brightest minds from 10 worlds. Beings who could bend plasma and build suns in jars. But now their faces showed fear. The giant reactor's energy waves were eating through their protective fields. Evan Cole stepped off the lift quietly, a small toolkit in his hand, wearing the same grease-stained uniform as before. Nobody noticed him at first. Everyone's eyes were glued to the screens as the numbers dropped lower and lower. "Energy collapse at 40%, shouted one alien technician. "Impossible! The secondary core was reinforced," another argued. A commander slammed his fist against the console. "If we fail again, Aurelius 9 will burn. Restart the containment AIs." Massive drones rolled in, spider-like machines built to handle radiation. Their metallic legs tapped against the deck as they approached the core chamber. Their glowing sensors flashed red, then white, as they tried to connect to the failing system. For a moment, everyone held their breath. The drones activated, and then, boom! A surge of light burst from the chamber. A shockwave threw engineers backward. Sparks rained from the ceiling like fireflies. One alien screamed as smoke filled the air. "Containment breach," yelled another. "Shut it down!" Evan stumbled but didn't fall. His ears rang, his heart pounded, but he didn't look away. The drones were nothing but molten metal now, their parts melting into the floor. The aliens backed away in horror. "It's no use," said the lead engineer, his voice shaking. "Even the AIs can't fix it." Someone whispered, "We should abandon the station." Those words hit Evan hard. He looked at the reactor chamber. Behind its transparent shield, the glowing heart of Aurelius 9 was breaking apart. He could almost feel its pain, like it was a living creature gasping for air. He took a slow step forward. The floor vibrated under his boots. The heat made his skin burn, but he didn't stop. "What are you doing?" An alien guard barked. Evan ignored him and stared through the glass. His eyes followed the flickering energy lines running through the coils, like veins carrying light. He saw where they twisted wrong, where they clashed like two notes out of tune. He whispered, "You're fighting yourself." The lead engineer turned toward him. "Human, this is no place for you." Evan didn't answer. His mind was racing. He could still remember how his old ship engines used to hum when they were running smoothly. This core sounded off, like it was struggling to breathe. He muttered softly, "You don't need more power. You need rhythm." "Rhythm?" The alien scoffed. "You speak nonsense." But Evan stepped closer to the console. His fingers brushed against the surface and the system flickered like it recognized him. He studied the graphs on the display, the pulses of light moving through the coils. Didn't understand their alien equations, but he felt the pattern, like listening to a song that had gone out of key. The engineers watched, confused. The human wasn't panicking, wasn't calculating. He was listening. "Adjust plasma flow by 0.3, Evan murmured. "Stop him," one shouted. "Wait," another said, her eyes wide. "The output just stabilized slightly, look." Everyone turned. For a moment, the energy flow evened out. The red warnings turned amber. "How did you do that?" Evan exhaled. "You were pushing it too hard. It needed time to breathe." The lead engineer glared. "Nonsense. Machines don't breathe." Evan looked up at him calmly. "Maybe yours don't, but this one does." Silence filled the room. The aliens looked between each other, unsure whether to laugh or believe. Then another alarm screamed. Critical overload. The small improvement collapsed again. The floor shook violently. The engineers shouted for evacuation, but Evan stayed rooted in place, watching the pulsing light. His heart was steady. He felt something, like the core was calling out for help again. He whispered to himself, "It's trying to survive. I can help it." Behind him, guards moved in. "Human, out now!" But before they could drag him away, a small alien woman stepped forward from the observation deck. Her name was Kira, a scientist who had stayed quiet during the chaos. Her 4 silver eyes reflected the reactor's light. "Wait," she said softly. "Let him speak." The room fell silent. Even the alarms seemed quieter. Evan turned toward her, surprised. "You believe you can fix this?" she asked. He looked back at the reactor. "No," he said, his voice low but certain. "I know I can." Kira hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Then show us." The lead engineer protested. "He's a janitor." But Kira ignored him. Sometimes the smallest hands see what giants can't. Evan stepped closer to the reactor window. The heat washed over him like fire, but he didn't flinch. He opened his toolkit and placed his hand on the glass. "I can fix this," he whispered again. And somewhere deep within the reactor's heart, the light pulsed back, like it had heard him. The reactor chamber of Aurelius 9 looked like the heart of a dying sun. The walls glowed red, the air rippled with heat, and energy waves cracked like lightning against the safety shields. The Galactic Engineers had already stepped back, afraid to go near it again. Every being in that room understood one thing: one wrong move, and the entire station would be nothing but dust floating in the void. And yet the only person who stepped forward was a human janitor. Evan Cole walked toward the main gate, toolkit in hand, face drenched in sweat. The alien guards blocked his way, their plasma rifles raised. "You cannot enter," one barked. "The chamber is unstable. You will die." Evan didn't slow down. "If no one goes in, everyone dies," he said quietly. Behind the guards, Kira, the silver-eyed scientist, stared at him. Her voice trembled. "You really think you can fix it?" Evan turned his head slightly, his tone steady. "I don't think, I know." The lead engineer hissed, "This is madness, he's a cleaner." Kira's gaze hardened. "Open the gate." The guards hesitated. "Doctor, do it," she ordered. With a hiss of steam, the thick metal doors unlocked and slid open. A wave of hot air hit everyone like fire. Even standing at the threshold felt like standing inside a furnace. But Evan didn't blink. He took a slow breath, whispered something under his breath, maybe a prayer, maybe his daughter's name, and stepped inside. As soon as the doors sealed behind him, the noise vanished. Inside the chamber, there was only a low hum, deep and sorrowful, like a creature in pain. The light was blinding, gold and orange swirling together, flickering like a heartbeat out of rhythm. Evan's boots echoed softly against the metal floor. He could feel the heat biting through his uniform. His skin burned, but he kept walking, each step firm. He wasn't thinking about danger. He was thinking about sound, about the rhythm that felt wrong, about the little hum he used to hear when he fixed old engines on Earth. He reached the control pylon, opened his toolkit, and started working. He didn't use alien tech. He didn't use advanced codes. He just used his hands, steady, calloused, and human. Outside, the engineers watched on the holoscreen. They saw the human touch the circuits like a musician touching the strings of an ancient instrument. Every time he twisted a wire or adjusted a valve, the core's energy pattern shifted slightly, almost listening. Kira whispered, "He's not repairing it. He's communicating with it." Inside, Evan spoke softly, like talking to a child. "Easy now. You're scared, huh?" "I know that sound." He pressed his palm against the glowing conduit. Pain shot through his arm. His glove smoked, but he didn't pull away. The hum changed. The flicker steadied for half a second. "Good," he murmured. "You can hear me." The sensors outside began showing strange readings. human bioenergy resonating with the core's pulse. It made no logical sense. The alien engineers stared at the numbers, frozen in disbelief. "How is he alive in there?" one muttered. Kira's voice trembled with awe. "Because he's doing what we couldn't, feeling the machine." Evan tightened a bolt, reconnected 2 burned wires, and closed a leaking plasma vent. The room filled with light so bright it turned everything white. His visor cracked, heat seared his arms, but he kept working. Then the floor shook again. A deep rumble roared through the structure. The readings spiked violently. "Containment rising again," someone shouted from the control deck. "He's going to be vaporized." Evan heard the alarms, but his mind was calm. He thought of Lena, her laughter, her drawings, the way she said, "Fix small things first, Daddy." He smiled faintly. "I'm fixing the biggest one now, kiddo," he whispered. The reactor's core glowed like a sunrise. Energy waves rolled toward him, threatening to burn everything. But just before the explosion peaked, Evan reached into his kit and pulled out something old and simple, a human-made wrench. He jammed it between 2 glowing coils and turned it with all his strength. Outside, the engineers gasped as the core's violent pattern suddenly shifted into perfect symmetry. The wild light softened into a steady, calm pulse. Kira shouted, "He did it!" "The readings are stabilizing." Cheers erupted, but they stopped just as fast. Because inside the chamber, Evan had fallen to his knees. His uniform was torn, his arms burned, his breathing slow. The core now shone steady and bright behind him like a newborn star. But he barely had the strength to stand. He looked up at it one last time and smiled weakly. "Told you I could fix this," he whispered. The safety locks engaged, the doors opened, and the emergency lights turned blue, the color of peace on Aurelius 9. Kira ran forward as the med droids lifted Evan's body out of the chamber. His eyes were half open, the reflection of the calm reactor glowing in them like the light of a promise kept. In the silence that followed, no one dared call him Janitor again. The reactor's steady hum echoed across Aurelius 9, soft and alive again like a sleeping giant breathing peacefully. The alarms had gone silent. The red emergency lights dimmed to a calm blue. The galaxy's largest space station, once seconds away from destruction, now floated safely in orbit, glowing like a newborn star. But in the control room, no one celebrated. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the human lying unconscious on the floor, his burned uniform still smoking. His chest rose slowly, a sign of life, though barely. The med droids hovered around him, scanning his vitals, whispering soft robotic tones. Dr. Kira Velln, the alien scientist with silver eyes, stood at his side. Her hands trembled as she pressed a thin crystal recorder to her temple, an official galactic research log. Her voice was quiet but filled with emotion. Observation log, Cycle 91, Station Aurelius 9. Subject, human male, name, Evan Cole. Status, civilian, janitorial maintenance. Action, entered a critical reactor zone without authorization, and repaired what no galactic engineer could. Her voice cracked slightly. She stopped the recording for a moment and looked down at Evan's rough hands. They were burnt, blackened in places, but still clenched around a small human-made wrench. "A simple old tool," Kira whispered. "You saved us." "With this?" She turned to the lead engineer, Commander Vallon, whose 4 glowing eyes burned with shame and anger. "You laughed at him," she said coldly. "You mocked him while he saved your lives." Vallon straightened, his pride flaring. He broke 1,000 safety laws. He entered sacred machinery without clearance. This human should be punished, not praised." Kira stepped forward. "Punished? For saving billions?" Vallon's voice rose. "He is an accident. If that chamber had collapsed, we would all be dead." "You call this bravery, I call it chaos." Kira's silver eyes flashed. "Then chaos saved the galaxy today." The room fell silent. No one dared to speak. Even the younger alien technicians looked away in guilt. Evan stirred weakly on the stretcher. His voice was barely a whisper. "Did it hold?" Kira knelt beside him instantly. "Yes," she said softly. "The core is stable." "You did it," he smiled faintly. "Told you. It just needed to breathe." She felt a lump rise in her throat. She wanted to say thank you, but no words seemed big enough. Two med droids lifted him gently and began carrying him toward the recovery bay. As they passed the observation window, Kira followed, watching the repaired reactor glow bright and calm. Outside the glass, the stars reflected off the metal surface, tiny specks of light against infinite black. It reminded her of something Evan had said before entering the chamber. Machines are like people. You don't command them. You listen. And for the first time, she truly understood what he meant. Later, in the Galactic Council chamber aboard Aurelius 9, the engineers and commanders gathered again. The air was thick with politics and pride. Valon stood tall, his tone cold. "We will record this as a collective effort of the engineering division," he said. "No need to mention the janitor." Kira slammed her fist against the table, shocking the room into silence. "No," she said sharply. "You will record the truth. His name will be remembered," Valon sneered. "You would elevate a primitive to the rank of scientist?" Kira leaned forward, her voice calm but deadly. "No, I would elevate truth above pride." She activated the hologram. The recording appeared in the air. The moment when Evan stepped into the reactor chamber, the chaos, the heat, the way his hands worked with rhythm and care. The image showed something no one could deny, the human's courage, his connection, his miracle. Valon's face darkened, but he said nothing. Around the table, murmurs began. A few aliens bowed their heads in respect. One even whispered, "Maybe humans are not as simple as we thought." Kira ended the meeting with a single line. "He fixed what we couldn't, not because he was smarter, but because he cared." That night, she visited the recovery bay. Evan lay asleep, surrounded by soft blue light. Machines hummed quietly, monitoring him. His hand still held the small wrench, as if he refused to let go. Kira placed a data crystal beside his bed, a permanent record with his name engraved. "Evan Cole, the human who heard the stars," she whispered. "Rest now, janitor of Earth, the galaxy knows your name." Outside, through the window, the repaired reactor pulsed in rhythm with the heartbeat of a single human. Steady, calm and alive, and somewhere deep inside that machine, it almost felt like the reactor was breathing with him. Days passed since the miracle. The reactor of Aurelius 9 remained calm and stable, its deep hum spreading warmth through the station. The galaxy's greatest minds had failed, but a single human janitor had done what they could not. His name, Evan Cole, was whispered in every corridor, carried in awe, disbelief, and quiet respect. But peace never lasted long in space. The calm hum of the reactor began to change again, soft at first like a cough in a sleeping child. Monitors flickered, readings shifted. No one noticed in time. In the recovery bay, Evan lay on his bed, his body still wrapped in healing gels. The faint sound of alarms reached his ears. He blinked weakly, his vision blurry, the world spinning. He whispered, "No, not again." A med droid floated near him. "Rest, Patient Cole," it said gently. "You are not cleared for movement." But Evan pushed himself upright, ignoring the pain. He ripped the sensor wires off his chest and swung his legs down. "If that reactor goes again," he muttered, "no one survives." The door opened with a hiss. Kira entered, her silver eyes filled with worry. "Evan, what are you doing? You can't even walk properly." He grabbed his wrench from the bedside table, the same one that had saved them all. "Then I'll crawl if I have to," he said, his voice firm. Kira stepped closer, torn between logic and emotion. "You don't have to fix everything," she whispered. Evan looked at her, tired but determined. "That's the thing about us humans," he said softly. "We don't stop trying." The two rushed toward the reactor deck, the halls filled with blaring alarms and running feet. Alien engineers scrambled to stabilize the readings, but the numbers only climbed higher. The energy spikes were violent, unnatural. Something inside the core was rebelling. Commander Valon stood at the console, shouting orders. "Shut it down completely." Kira yelled back, "If you shut it down now, the chain reaction will destroy the whole station." Valon turned sharply, eyes blazing. "Then what do you suggest, scientist? Pray to the human again?" Evan's voice answered from behind them, hoarse but strong. "Maybe you should." Every head turned. The human janitor, pale and shaking, stood at the entrance, leaning on his wrench like a cane. Valon glared. "You should be in bed." "Yeah," Evan said, limping toward the control panel. "But beds don't save lives." He stopped in front of the glass window overlooking the reactor. The light inside was wild again. red and blue lightning crashing against the containment walls. It looked angry, alive, desperate. Kira put a hand on his arm. "You're not strong enough. You can't survive another entry." He looked at her, eyes calm. "If I don't go, no one survives." "That's not a choice, it's a fact." She shook her head. "You'll die," he smiled faintly. "Everyone dies. Not everyone saves something first," Valon barked. "I forbid it." No unauthorized entry. Evan didn't even look at him. "You already had your chance, Commander." Then he turned to Kira. "Promise me something." Her throat tightened. "Anything." "If I don't make it," he said softly, "tell Lena her dad fixed one last thing." Kira's eyes filled with tears. "I will." Before she could stop him, Evan stepped through the access door as the chamber's emergency field activated. The heat hit him instantly, burning his skin, but he kept going. The reactor pulsed violently, throwing off arcs of energy that lit the room like thunder. Outside, Kira watched from the control room, recording every second. "Come on, Evan," she whispered. Inside, Evan reached the center console, gripping it with both hands. His heartbeat synced with the core's unstable rhythm. He closed his eyes, listening again. Not to numbers, not to machines, but to feeling. "It's scared," he murmured. "It's trying to protect itself." He understood now. When he first repaired it, he had given it life again, but now it feared losing that life. The core was fighting to stay awake. He whispered gently, "It's okay. You're not alone." The reactor's pulse slowed slightly, as if hearing him. He adjusted a sequence, released a pressure valve, and fed the energy back in controlled waves. But the energy backlash hit him full force, a blinding explosion of light and sound. The walls cracked, alarms screamed, and smoke poured through the vents. Kira shouted, "Evan!" Through the chaos, she saw him, his body glowing faintly in the storm of energy, his wrench still turning, his face lit with calm defiance. He yelled over the roar, "Now or never!" He slammed the final switch. The core released its trapped energy in a blinding beam through the station's vent towers, out into space, like a supernova sighing in relief. Then everything went silent. The light faded. The reactor returned to calm, stable glow. Kira ran to the observation door, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Open it now." The chamber door slid open. Smoke poured out, thick and dark. Evan lay at the center, his hand still gripping the wrench. His chest barely moved. Kira fell beside him, shaking. "Evan, wake up!" His lips moved faintly. "Did it work?" She nodded, tears falling. "Yes, you saved us again." He smiled weakly, eyes half open. "Told you. I could fix it." His hand went limp, the wrench falling softly to the floor. Outside the window, Aurelius 9 shone brighter than ever before, alive, safe, and eternal. The light of Aurelius 9 reached far across the black of space. Every ship in orbit could see it, the blue glow of a reactor reborn, the heartbeat of a galaxy once again steady. But for those inside the station, the light meant something deeper. It was not only power restored. It was proof that one small human had done what no empire could. The med droids worked silently in the smoke-filled chamber. Evan Cole lay still, his burned hands resting beside the wrench that had saved billions. The faint hum of the reactor surrounded him like a lullaby. His breathing was weak but present, fragile as a candle flame. Dr. Kira Veln knelt beside him, her silver eyes shining with tears. Around them, the engineers stood in silence. No one spoke. No one mocked. The being they had once called Janitor was now something else entirely, a legend born from humility. When Evan's eyes fluttered open, the first thing he saw was the calm blue light above him. "It's quiet now," he whispered. Kira nodded. "You did it," he tried to smile. Then, "It's fixed." "Yes," she said softly. "And so are we." He exhaled slowly, pain fading into peace. "Good, tell Lena." His voice trailed off before he could finish. The machines beside him beeped softly, then went still. Kira pressed her hand to his chest, feeling nothing but warmth. For a long moment, the room remained silent. Even the reactor seemed to mourn. 3 cycles later, Aurelius 9 hosted the largest gathering in galactic history. Delegates from hundreds of worlds came to pay tribute to the man who had saved them. The massive central dome, once used for war summits, now held a new monument. A tall statue made of steel and crystal. depicting a human holding a wrench toward the stars. At the base, a simple engraving read, Evan Cole, the human who heard the heart of a star. Crowds filled the walkways. Alien voices spoke in thousands of tones and dialects, each carrying respect. Even Commander Valan stood silently at the edge, his proud head lowered. When it was time, Kira stepped onto the podium. The lights dimmed, and her voice carried through every speaker in the system. He was not a soldier, nor a scientist, nor a god. He was a father, a janitor. He saw life where we saw machinery. He heard a heartbeat where we heard data, and in his humanity, he reminded us what we had forgotten, that compassion is the oldest form of intelligence. Her words echoed through the dome. Many bowed their heads. Some wept openly. Then a small voice spoke from the crowd. That's my daddy. Every being turned. A little human girl, no older than 8, stepped forward holding a piece of chalk in her hand. Her hair was tied in 2 short braids, her eyes wide with courage and sadness. Lena Cole. Kira bent down, tears filling her eyes. You must be Lena, she said softly. The girl nodded. Mom used to say Daddy could fix anything. I didn't know he fixed everything. Kira smiled through her tears. He fixed the galaxy, little one. And he fixed us too. Lena looked at the statue, then took her chalk and drew a tiny star beside the engraved name. He always said stars just need someone to listen when they cry, she whispered. The entire dome fell silent again. No one moved. No one dared interrupt the moment. Then, in an act that would echo through history, the Galactic Council members, creatures of all colors, shapes, and worlds, rose from their seats and bowed deeply before the little girl. Kira whispered to her, They're bowing to your father. Lena looked up, eyes full of wonder. Then maybe he can finally rest. Years later, stories of Evan Cole spread beyond Aurelius 9. Children across planets studied the human fix theory, a new principle in galactic engineering based on empathy and rhythm rather than cold calculation. Ships were built to breathe with their pilots. Reactors were designed to listen, and every one of them carried the same inscription somewhere on its hull. Let me try. Kira visited Lena often. She became like family, telling her stories of her father, the way he smiled in the face of danger, the way he spoke softly to machines, and how he carried love in every word. When Lena turned 12, she asked Kira if she could visit the reactor her father saved. Together they stood before the glowing core. It pulsed calmly, almost warmly, as if recognizing her. Lena pressed her small hand to the glass. Hi, Daddy, she whispered. The reactor's light brightened for a moment, just once, as though answering her. Kira smiled faintly. He's still here, you know. In every hum, every spark. Lena nodded, tears in her eyes. Then I'll keep fixing things too. And with that, the daughter of a janitor walked away under the same blue glow that had once guided her father. Across the stars, beings of every kind remembered his words, simple, human, eternal. I can fix this. And for generations to come, the galaxy bowed not to power, not to technology, but to the heart of a single man who dared to care.